Here I am, Lord. I come to do your will. Delighted to know that we're coming towards the end of our pastoral plan, call to conversion. Here I am, Lord. I come to do your will. There's a sense of fulfillment within me as I come towards the end, knowing that I'm doing the Father's will. Here I am, Lord, to do your will. And we continue. So as to summarize, I'm going to summarize the last goals. But there's something interesting about those last goals, because in a way, I just realized that as I was sitting, in a way they summarize the entire 12 goals. So let's first go to the 3 goals. And this is the last priority. There's 3 priorities. The third one is we will go and make disciples. And in this call to be disciples, the 4 goals. The first goal I discussed last week, which I would have loved to see that at the beginning. And it's basically the invitation to encounter Jesus Christ. In many ways, that's presumed in the first section of the pastoral plan. You have to have a relationship with the Lord. Therefore, in this first section, the focus on the Eucharist, sacrament, reconciliation, Mass, make all Sundays sacred, Eucharistic adoration, all means for us to grow in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, making prayer central in our life, all focusing on this encounter with Jesus. But not only we encounter, but now in goal 9, we are encouraged to go out and be instruments that others may encounter the same Jesus Christ we have encountered. So that's goal 9. The entire diocese will participate in targeted efforts to invite all to encounter Jesus Christ. That's goal 9. Now, goal 10, specifically now is the focus on vocational discernment. And not just for our youth, although specifically for youth, but in a broader sense, the call for holiness that we all have. So when we speak of vocation, and in the context of the pastoral plan, this vocational discernment is one, a reminder that we're all called to be holy, call for holiness. But then also a very basic principle in the Christian, in our Christian belief, that each one of us has a specific mission, a specific vocation, a specific something that only you can fulfill with the grace of God. And if you fulfill that mission, it benefits all. If you don't, it affects us all. And no one can do it for you, only you can do it. So God has uniquely created each one of us, and within the way in which He created us in the uniqueness of who we are, there is a mission attached to that. Precisely that's why we are so unique and different to everybody else, because to us has been entrusted a very unique and specific mission. So part of this goal number 10 would be to help all to discern what did God create me for? What's my purpose? What's my mission? But the overall mission of everyone is to be holy, to be saints. That's our ultimate vocation. To be forever in the embraceful love of the Father, in Christ Jesus, eternally breathing the Holy Spirit for all eternity. For that, there's a journey, there's a mission, and there's a call for holiness. That's goal 10. Specifically, goal 10 asks for vocation coordinators in each of the parishes. I think, in a way, that's what Sue has become. Sue and Dave, vocations coordinator, and to organize things like what we do every Wednesday. We bring the poster of the seminarians so we can pray for them on Wednesday. So the diocese has this vision of, in every parish, there should be a vocations coordinator who are in constant communication with the vocations office and seek opportunities to promote the call for holiness, to help people grow in awareness of their own specific missions, and in specifically promoting vocation to religious life, priesthood, diaconate, religious life, holy families, especially within our youth. That's goal number 10. But now if we go to goal 11, which part of my critique, it just seems too vague. But it is what it is. And I think it's too vague because much of it has already been articulated in the previous goals. And goal 11, it's a call for mission, missionary spirit. It says, we will establish, cultivate, and emphasize the church missionary spirit. So a lot of what we've already discussed previously throughout the pastoral plan is the reminder that we are sent forth to do missionary work. Let it be with the homeless, let it be with corporal works of mercy, let it be with so many ways, working with our youth, young adults, visiting the hospitals, the nursing home, all of it, it's this call that we all have to go out, spread the good news, go out on a mission. But if we go back to goal 10, that mission that we all have is very specific to each individual. So back to goal 10, to help people discern what is your specific mission. Goal 11 is more of a constant reminder that as a church we're meant to be out there, faith in action, doing missionary work, spreading the good news with our actions, with our words. So there's a sense of a reminder to be out there. From the specifics of goal 11, it's really wanting to call to mind when we have special collections throughout the diocese, to keep that in mind. We've had several ones, even a spontaneous one, like for when the hurricane came, victims of hurricane. I'm sure there will be one coming up for victims of the fires in California. So there are spontaneous collections that often happen, which is part of our missionary role to help beyond just our parish, beyond our diocese. But then there are specific collections that happen every year, specifically to fund missions, to fund the retired priests and religious sisters, to fund global missionary efforts. There's different collections throughout the whole year, and they want to educate people about it and highlight the beauty of, in doing so, we're doing missionary work. It also says they want to identify and promote already or create missionary opportunities. Here I was thinking, if we're here at St. Rita, if we were to develop a missionary opportunity for people in the diocese, what would it look like? What may be our unique mission as a parish that if we structure and develop it in a way that could be promoted diocesan-wise, that people from throughout the diocese can come and do missionary work here. In many ways, we intuitively already done that when we do the Toys Drive. We have how many parishes participating? 5 different parishes throughout the diocese who in a way are collaborating in a missionary effort to bring gifts to our children during Christmas. Perhaps that could be expanded even more. How do we not just collect gifts to bring them over here and give to our kids, but perhaps we can develop something that we invite those 5 parishes to specific events, especially the cultural and religious events that we are uniquely known for in our parish to celebrate, so that not only they're giving gifts, but then they come to see the joy of the kids receiving the gift, but also receiving the gift that our children have to give them, what our community can give them. And specifically, I'm thinking, for example, the celebration of Our Lady Guadalupe, the posadas, the baby Jesus when they put him to sleep, when they see him, the processions, the many cultural ways that we celebrate our faith. That could be something that enriches other parishes and other people who may not have the exposure and the richness of culture and diversity that we may have. So just food for thought. What could be something missionary that we as a parish can structure and set so that others from the diocese can benefit and participate? And then the last 12 goal, and we reach to the end. The last one is specifically targeting the youth. So goal number 2 was about youth. Goal 12, the last one, is about youth. It's almost like sandwiching and the importance of our youth, which I'm not surprised because the first courageously living the gospel, one of the main areas was youth. So we're still building upon that. And this is what it specifically says for Goal 12. Invest in our youth and young adults by providing them additional opportunities to grow in their Catholic faith and serve others. So not only we want to form our youth to be Catholic disciples within the Catholic identity, so not just formation, but then, okay, let's give them opportunities so that they could go out and put that formation into effect, so that they could go out and evangelize. But notice, asking the church, can we create the safe environments, the context where our youth can begin to explore their missionary role, the disciple role, the evangelization role? Specifically, they're trying to develop, it says, the diocese will discern partnership to support youth summer experiences. In our diocese, which I feel has been pretty successful, and our own youth have participated in it, they have the Good Samaritan Project. And the Good Samaritan Project is all the youth from the diocese stay overnight at Bishop McLaughlin building. So they take classrooms, sleeping bags, and they sleep there. They wake up, they have some liturgy, mass, prayer, and then they get on a bus and they go to different places throughout the whole diocese to do actual work. If you recall, a year ago we had about 50 of them here, and that's how we planted the 113 little trees that we have in our parking lot. They've gone to other places to paint, to clean, to serve. So that's an example of a summer program that's being developed for our youth, so that our youth can put into practice what hopefully we are forming them to become young disciples. It also speaks about colleges. Little critique here, a little annoying one. It says, and hence our current Catholic college student ministries, so campus ministry, and then it specifically only mentions 2 universities. We have a lot more in our diocese. It only speaks about the University of South Florida and the University of Tampa, USF and UT. What about our Catholic University, St. Leo? And how about the many universities? They're not as big as USF and UT, but our youth are there. So perhaps they just want to start small, but hey, you just neglected the only one Catholic university in our entire diocese. Hello. Well, anyways, that's my critique for today. And then how we empower young adults to exercise pastoral leadership. Here I am, Lord, I come to do your will. I mentioned earlier that this 9, 10, 11, 12, this last 4 goals, in a way, almost like summarizes the 12. And here is how I would like to present this. This morning I was trying to figure out, because if I make a critique, this is a beautiful pastoral plan, but 12, hello, that's kind of like a lot of things. And when people see this whole magazine with 12 goals, the first thing they're like, oh, okay, I'll read it when I get a chance. They put it to the side, and I'm afraid it never gets to be read, because in many ways it's intimidating. A whole magazine of a pastoral plan. Raise your hand if you have already read the magazine. One person. Okay, I'm going to raise it just so that there's 2. So it's very well put together. But I think it may be too intimidating when you have so many goals. So this morning I was praying and discerning, okay, can these 12 goals be summarized into 3 or 4, no more than 5? 4. 4 is a good number. I was thinking 3, but boy, that's impossible. There's 12 goals, that's a lot. So, and we could argue that says, okay, yeah, we could summarize it in 3 based on the 3 priorities, but I don't necessarily think that the priorities match the goals. They're too vague, and sometimes it's like going different directions. But just based on the 12 goals, these are the 4 areas that I thought. One, there's the spiritual component. Of course, that's who we are. And then the spiritual component is our relationship with God, with Jesus Christ, the sacraments, Eucharist, Sacrament of Reconciliation, making prayer central in our lives. So there's this big area, big bucket of, of the spiritual dimensions. We are religious entities, so there better be a spiritual religious component to it. So that's the one area. But then there's the other area, which is, okay, we have to grow in our spiritual life, in our relationship with God, but we have to put it into action. So now there's this other bucket where we're called to do corporal acts of mercy, shelter for the homeless, visiting the ones who are in the hospital and sick, missionary work, out there. So there's the the spiritual relationship with God and my growth with the sacrament, but that done within the context of a family, we, the church, growing together, liturgy, the work of the people. And then we together, empowered by the love of Christ Jesus, empowered by the Father and the Spirit, go out. So two components. The third component that I also see is this being responsible to see what we have, what may be needed, and how we start preparing for what's coming. So there's one, that's the third area. It's spelled out in the sense like we have to do strategic planning or study demographic and change population, where they're growing, where they're at. Let's study what's happening. It looks like, in our case, this area is growing like crazy. Well, maybe we should start focusing on that area and develop and perhaps buy land if we don't have it, and begin to strategize where can possibly be another parish constructed, or a retreat center, or a cemetery, or another office for Catholic charities. So there's a sense of strategizing. Where is the changes? Where's the Spirit leading us? And how do we prepare for it? And part of preparing is, okay, what do we got? What are we missing? And how do we prepare for it? It could be building-wise, it could be land-wise, but one big one is our human resources. How do we train ourselves, pastoral leaderships, so that we can be great leaders in projection of the future? And once again, the focus on our youth. How do we form them knowing that they're going to be the future leaders? But how do we form them so they can be leaders now? So there's the spiritual, there's the action, there's the strategic thinking, research, what's coming up and how do we prepare for it, how do we begin to train. And then the fourth one, the one that has repeated, a very specific area that continues to repeat itself, is the youth. So those are the four buckets. Now when you see those four buckets, goal 9, 10, 11, 12, you see those four buckets there. So the first one, invite to encounter Jesus Christ, the spiritual component. That's the first one. The second one, parishes who would assist our fellow disciples to discern God's universal call to holiness by assisting them in their vocational discernment. So here's a little bit of that. What do we got? What do we got? What are the gifts that God has given us? And how do we empower them towards projecting towards the future? 11, we will establish, cultivate, and emphasize church missionary spirit. This is us going out and doing the work right now, where it's needed. Corporal works of mercy, missionary work, helping the homeless, visiting those in the hospital. And then goal number 12, invest in our youth and young adults. So at first I was seeing this last four is like, it almost looked like they had nothing else to do and they just added at the end. We don't know how, we just could put four more there. But in further thought and prayer, I could see, well, this could be seen as the four that summarizes everything. So that is our pastoral plan, and with great joy, I can now say to the Lord, Lord, I've done your will. You've asked me to do this. I've taken the pastoral plan as you've given it to our bishop, and I have shared with my community. I've done my part. So now you can't say, oh, Father hasn't spoken about the pastoral plan. Footnote here, by the way, at the Presbyteral Council meeting, which is when the bishop meets with all the priests that he consults with, he gave a warning. I guess it happened already. I hope it's not going to happen in our parish. That he went to visit a parish to do the typical Episcopal visits, and perhaps there was people there receiving sacraments, who knows. And as he has done and will continue to do very likely for the next 4 years, he preached about the call to conversion. And the bishop was saying it was obvious that in that parish, no one has heard of it. Because as he was speaking, people were like, oh, what's that? Oh, And he's looking at the pastor and he's thinking to himself, they haven't done anything here to teach about the pastoral plan and to be working towards it. I hope that's not the case here in St. Rita, because I've dedicated a lot of homilies for it and making it aware and available to you. Now that's just the first phase. This first phase I've been reading, explaining, expanding, critiquing. That's just the beginning. Now we need to start moving to the second phase, which is, all right, let's start getting to work. Let's start working together. What are we going to do to make it happen? So there are several things that I have lined up. Above all, the most important thing is I need to start bringing the key players together. Get to know each other. Get to know each other's strength. Start developing some task force. Start discerning how do we implement this for the building of God's kingdom. So as we continue moving forward, may all of us come to say, here I am, Lord. I come to do your will.